Hey, good morning, everybody. And you know what time it is. It's Saturday morning, and this is Multifamily Unplugged. Hey, Merry Christmas. Yeah, Christmas Eve this morning. Hope that you're enjoying some great time with family, taking a break from work, and just getting ready for the new year. I always talk about intentions, right? What's your intentions? What are you planning? So have you sat down and really started working on your goals and taking a look at what next year you are going to do? How maybe some of the changes in the environment with lending and the pricing in the marketplace with multifamily is going to change your strategy for next year? How's your planning going? Hey, I still have copies of the 2023 planning guide, goal setting and planning guide. If you want a copy of that, throw it in the chat. I'll be more than happy to get a copy out to you this week. If you have direction, if you're looking for direction, if you're looking for help, I'll be more than happy to answer questions. So don't hesitate to reach out. We'll try and get your comments answered this morning if you put anything in the chat. Remember that we are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So if you're on YouTube, smash that subscribe button if you would. If you're somewhere else, just like us, love us, tell somebody about us, and pass this on to somebody else. Hey, I'm excited this morning about this morning's guests. I am joined by Tom Shellcross and Mark Ainley from Straight Up in Chicago Investor. StraightUpChicagoInvestor.com is their website, and their podcast is Straight Up Chicago Investor. Let's bring them in and start this conversation. Morning, guys.
Hey, Mike.
Good morning.
Hey, this is kind of cool. I don't usually have three people on, myself and two other people. So I think this will be fun this morning. It's been a long time since I had a couple of different guests. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how this flows. So glad that you guys are here this morning. And here's one thing. I know, Tom, you and I have tried for a while to make this happen. And we've had things scheduled and fall through or don't connect. And I'm glad that we're finally here. So I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, we get to be the Christmas episode. It all works out.
Hey, there you go. We just had to wait till the year slowed down a little bit to get together. So hey, so I always start out with, one question, and I say I'm going to write a book, and I hope I get to do that this coming year. But I ask one question, in one word, what best describes you both personally and professionally? So I'd love for both you guys to answer that.
Mark, you want to go first?
Sure. I was going to have a couple of words, but the one I really narrowed down to is value. I wanted to do value add, but that's two words, so I don't want to go there. But value, I try to, on both personal and professional side of things, whenever I come across somebody, I try to add as much value as I can to whatever their journey might be. And I'm a strong believer that the whole giver mentality and that all comes back. So value is my word.
Awesome.
That's good. I can attest to that too, Mark. That's not fluff. I'm going to go with purposeful. So it's kind of too many syllables, but whether it's professionally, like you're going after something, or if I'm with my kids, or even if I'm just in a pickup basketball game, like being there in that moment and not just going through the motions, right? Like you only have that moment once. You don't know how long you're here. So do everything with a purpose as opposed to just letting life take you by the horns.
Yeah. Interesting. Very cool. Hey, it always jumps out to me when somebody says a word that nobody's ever said before. And Mark, it's interesting. You said value. I don't think anybody's ever said that word. I've been doing this over 2.5 years and asking that question, and value comes up, right? So talk about that a little bit. Talk about value in your life, things maybe you value, how you help other people with value. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, I think the one thing I've always tried to solve other people's problems, even from a young age, or we're from Chicago, right? I got a guy. I always try to connect people, add value that way. The podcast, Straight Up Chicago Investor podcast, was born out of, for me, I was helping one person at a time. We developed hundreds of properties and I always say we made $1,000 mistakes. And if I could help other people not make those mistakes, but I was only doing that one at a time. And me and Tom came together with the idea of this podcast, and that was a way to add value and share with people the mistakes that we made, so they don't make them on a grander scale. So, and then whenever I talk to somebody, and then my kids and of course my wife, any way I can add value, and value is not always like connecting somebody or giving them advice. It just might be, hey, listen, you just need someone to listen to, or you just need somebody to just grind your shoulder, whatever it might be. I think we all have ways we can add value to almost anybody we come across any part of the day. And sometimes it's just smiling and saying hi and being nice. Like that's one of those silent ones that's really easy to do, that I think we all take for granted.
Yeah, it's really inexpensive just to smile and say hi to somebody, isn't it?
Yeah.
You'd be surprised what that does for somebody's life. Hey, so how about a little background, guys? If you guys want to both take a couple minutes and talk about, your background, what you've done, what you're currently doing, how you got in this space.
Mark, go for it. You have the longer history.
No, I'll summarize it then. But I've been in this Chicago real estate market for about 19 years. We have a GC Realty Developments, our brokerage and property manager. We also run our development through there as well too. It started before I even got my license, just doing some of these rehabs, and really with the tailwinds we had in 2003, 4, 5, and made a bunch of money that anyone probably could have. So I really don't take too much credit for it, and then found a way to make some money in condo conversions, which no one's really heard of that the last 10 years. It's all the deconversion. So made a bunch of money doing the condo deconversions in different ways. And, property management kind of grew silently. And then we invested, we did a whole bunch of what they call now burst strategy properties between 08 and 18. We took 482 units and did those and started selling some of those turnkey. Some of we actually still have, but we really took advantage of the downturn in 2008, 2009 for the next decade after that. And then now through everything we've learned and everything we've experienced, our goal is to provide really property management services to smaller investors, to call it smaller, non-institutional investors. And, we have a portfolio of commercial properties as well too. So that's how we do that. And then of course we have the podcast that is kind of a face of some of that as well.
Got it. Interesting. So, so you did a lot of condo conversions back when that craze was going on?
So I was never the developer. So let me make sure I don't take credit for that. But what I did as a real estate broker was I came in, an investor. I came in and we would basically get in early, when they're selling for 125, and then I'd sell 40 or 50 of them, and then I would help all these investors as soon as it sold out, sell them for 150, 160,000. So I made a lot of people a lot of money. That's another way to add value, make people money, and I was able to do that. But back then, anyone could get mortgages, so anybody with a W-2 could pretty much get 100% financing loan. So I was able to just kind of put all this piece together. We made a bunch people money. But then the property management, some of those people want to hold long term, and that's really a lot of how the property management was born.
Yeah. So for our listeners who might not understand that term, condo conversion, can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. So some of the bigger names that we know, Equity Residential, Inland, they were going around the suburbs here in Chicago and taking these 10, 15, 20-year-old apartment complexes that were owned by one person and giving a 200-unit complex 200 parcel numbers and selling them off as condos. They're buying them, doing some add value, and then selling them off as condos. And then we, if similar to new construction, if you're kind of in early, they always offered lower pricing versus call it the phase 3 where they're selling the last 50 units.
So big one in the city was I don't know if you remember Nick Galitas and
over on Lake Street.
Invesco, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So Mark, Tom, how about you? A little bit on your background and how you guys came together.
Sure. So, I'd always been interested in real estate. When I was 22, this is back in, 07, 08 era, I bought a townhome, and I still own that thing today, but I bought it at the absolute peak, which was awesome. Then I sat out the greatest time to invest in real estate, did nothing. And about 5-6 years ago, started going after it hard. I had a nice W-2 job. I had income. I'd actually done passive investing for Blake McCray, a friend of, I think, Mark, you introduced me to him, or he introduced me to you, but a mutual friend of ours. And I was seeing what he was making on these deals, and I was saying, okay, like there's something here. And so I started to get involved. And then I met Mark when I was originally doing, buying properties on the south side. Mark was managing all my units for me. So that's how we got connected and stayed friends through that. But present day today, my partner, Chris Clancy, and I, we do probably about roughly 8 to 10 flips a year. So that's income for us. We also look for small apartment buildings. I'm a broker with Second City Real Estate. So I work with Bree Schmidt and her team, helping investors find 2 to 4 units on the north side. And then I work with Drexel Properties, which company similar to Mark, where we own and operate larger apartment buildings, specifically on the north side of the city. Nice.
And you guys do some management together too?
No, we don't. We're just buddies.
Oh, got it. All right. So
I'm a GC. I've been a GC client. That's how we got connected.
So how'd the podcast? How'd you guys start the podcast?
My business partner here at GC Realty kept telling me, "Hey, throw these events, have these investor events, and all that." And being not a fan of Chicago weather, you could plan an event for 3 months and it rains that afternoon, or you got a thunderstorm that comes through, or snow, and then 5 people show up. So I always thought the input in, the effort in versus the back end result for throwing big events was never big. So, but again, yeah, that's your one way you can get in front of people. And at the same time, like I was talking about before, trying to find a way to add value to a lot of people at one time. It's kind of where me and Tom came together. And the original podcast was supposed to be, we talked about just kind of doing a show on each of the 77 neighborhoods in Chicago. And I said, well, I got expertise on the suburbs, and we could probably go deeper than that. And it turned into really, the podcast idea was, everyone, a lot of your listeners, a lot of, our network, they love Bigger Pockets, and Bigger Pockets offers such a great service for people like us on a grander scale. But there wasn't the niche neighborhood by neighborhood, block by block, suburb by suburb, suburb versus city type conversation going on anywhere, because there's not enough people on there. And we thought we could take and create kind of that network of people, and the network of people has really came together, through our Facebook group and, our handful of events we had. And it's been fun to kind of really bring so many people together through the podcast, and just such localized information. Huge city. When we started off, I'm like, we'll never have enough people to make it a couple hundred episodes. Like, there's not enough people. Like, I was very naive at first.
Oh, it's crazy, isn't it? How many people are around?
Yeah, one person refers somebody to somebody else, and then it's like, and then we've gone. We've interviewed people from the city, we've interviewed people from the state. Like, it's just been government type stuff, and it's just been fun to all the different people get to meet on the show, and then bring that to everybody else. Call it our 11,000, 12,000 listeners we have.
Yeah. So I do this show on Saturdays, but I also do a Thursday morning. I do a show called Thursday Morning Live. And what I like to do on that show is only focus on Chicago, and have, business owners, entrepreneurs, people that different types of business. Like this week, I have somebody going to be on my show who has a home staging company. And so we're going to just kind of talk about their business and how that works into the real estate space. So I don't always bring somebody on that's in real estate. And I like that, because that gives you a different perspective, right? Gives you other people to talk to. And it is a big city. That's for sure. So, hey, you know what, Mark, you kind of made a comment too. You made the deconversion comment. Are you doing any deconversions today on broken condo projects at all?
We're not. We had somebody from 33 Realty on that was an expert on the podcast. And, I've been part of a couple of buildings where I own condos in, where we've researched, does this make sense or not? But no, I've not been part of the development of that.
Yeah. So, because of the housing shortage, I've seen that happen a little bit more in different pockets and different areas where, some of these bigger groups are going in and they're buying a deal that might be a broken condo, right? Where you got some rentals and you have some condos that are individually owned, and going in and buying the owners out and deconverting them back to apartments, which interesting play. I think it's a long-term play. I think it's expensive from what I can best tell, but kind of an interesting process.
It is it's a long process between what I've been involved in and when we had Sean Conley on there on the podcast. Like, from start to finish, like you get 80% through and you're still not even half of you're still 50% chance it's not going to get to the closing table because some rent check is thrown into it. Like the amount of politics that goes into it. We manage a bunch of condos within developments that have had these proposals on the table for years, and the politics and the infighting that happens with it. It's kind of crazy. Like how, like, it's just, I don't know, that's a lot for me. Probably why we don't manage HOAs either, for the same reason.
You gotta underwrite all like the buyout fees and stuff too. All of a sudden, everything starts popping in the spreadsheet. And you're like, whoa, these numbers are starting to spread a little bit further than I want.
Yeah, and they get more money, right? So I remember doing a deal one time down in Alabama, and I was trying to quietly buy what would have turned out to be 106 units, but all these 4 and 8 unit buildings. And I went in, one of the owners owned like 26 of the buildings, bought those. And then I bought everything else except 3 buildings. And those 3 owners caught on what we were trying to do. And I had a HUD loan that we were working on getting that we would have got CapEx for and been able to fence it, build a clubhouse, build a pool, make it its own community. And these 3 owners said, no, we're not selling for less than this. And it totally priced us out of the market. We couldn't do it. But what the funny thing was, this was pre-08. And as the market shifted and those prices dropped, those guys couldn't pay for their property anymore, wound up in foreclosure. But then somebody else bought the deals. It was just a nightmare. But what are you guys working on these days, Tom?
We're still active. We're out there. I'm still walking properties. I'm really, I don't know the number for 2023 of like how many flips we're gonna do, how many units we're gonna gather. I'm much more focused on the process. Yeah. Continue to do the right things, continue to do the process, continue to constantly walk buildings, find deals that aren't on the market. And if they work, take them down. If they don't, be patient. So I'm not putting like some number on my head for 2023, but we're not sitting on the sidelines. We're out there and we want to continue to flip properties. We want to continue to accumulate units and move forward.
So what would your advice be to a naysayer today? Somebody who's saying, oh, interest rates are too high, or there's no good deals in the market right now. What's your advice to those people today?
I got a lot to say there. So like, there's always going to be an excuse, right? And also,
are you ready to skyrocket your investment portfolio and leave a legacy? Are you tired of inconsistent returns received in the stock market? Then it's time you take a look at alternative investment options like a passive investment in multifamily real estate. No tenants, trash, or toilets. Just a solid return on an annual investment, including quarterly returns along the way. These lower risk and secure assets are also a great hedge against inflation. If you want to hear more about these types of opportunities, email me directly to schedule a 15-minute consultation to see if you qualify. You can email me at mike@mycoreintentions.com.
It's all relative. I think a broker, I didn't come up with this analogy, but a broker I think told me, but when you're going down the highway and someone cruises past you, you're like, whoa, that guy's reckless. That guy's an idiot. And then anyone you pass it, you're saying, Jesus, grandma, move over. This guy's too slow. And it's all relative, right? The risk tolerance is all relative. Like that guy's an idiot to you, but he's not an idiot to someone else. And it's, so it's all your own risk tolerance and where you want to be, which is, contextual to your situation. So, first and foremost that. Second off, there's always going to be deals. It's an excuse to not find deals. I mean, if you're sitting there and you're saying, I'm cold calling 200 people a week and I can't find something, okay, then I have some empathy and like, yes, something's wrong. But if you're not doing that, and you're just sitting there looking at Redfin and saying, oh, I can't find deals. There's no deals. Rates are too high. Like, no, you're not putting in the effort. You're making excuses and you're not putting in the effort. So you don't want it as much as other people. And that's just the bottom line. So like, it's an excuse. There's always going to be opportunity there if you're willing to put in the work.
Yeah. How about you, Mark? Any
that's the one thing that I think is the best thing about real estate is there's so many different ways to make money. And I think if you are investing locally, there's always you always have a heads up on anyone else that's not as hyper local as you might be. Like Tom, for instance, knows every block in Jefferson Park. If he really wanted to find a deal in the next 7 days, he probably could, because he knows so much more about Jefferson Park than 90% of the rest of anyone that might be interested in Jefferson Park. So I think having your niche and going deep in these times is where it's going to really pay off. But at the same time, if it's the right time to pivot and do something else within real estate space, then that might make sense as well too. I'm hearing a bunch of property management companies start up. I'm hearing all this type of stuff that people are pivoting on. You know, maybe flips aren't. You know, you might have done flips for the last couple of years, but now you're shifting to managing some of your holds, or you know, going with a lower cap rate in a bigger building that you could live off the cash flow. Whatever it might be, I think there's always opportunity.
Yeah. So you know, you bring up a good point, Mark. You talked about Jefferson Park. Do you guys think that real estate is really, and specifically in a market like Chicago, do you guys really think that real estate is really localized like that? Like you should just specialize in this submarket of Jefferson Park or Woodlawn, or do you think it's localized enough like that?
I'm a big proponent of that. It doesn't work for everybody, right? Like, because there's pros and cons. You're kind of limiting yourself geographically, but the more you can understand the baseline of what things should trade at and what rent should be, the more informed you are, and the better you will be able to identify a good deal or opportunity that others would not be able to identify.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. It's the same thing in multifamily, right? I can go into a market like Dallas, and you know, the fundamentals around that market are one, but if I go to Hyde Park, the fundamentals around Hyde Park are totally different. That submarket. And in the larger multifamily stuff, it doesn't get as block by block, I think, as residential can get, but residential definitely does get block by block. That's for sure.
Yeah, agreed.
So, hey, you made a comment about cold calling 200 people a week. Talk about that a little bit. Who are you calling, and what are the results? You know, what should the results look like around that?
So admittedly, I'm not making 200 calls a week at this point, but you know, that's kind of how we started, and we hired virtual assistants to do those calls for us, right? To free up our time. I think if you're going to go down that route, you know, and I don't think I've mastered this by any means at all, so I'm open to feedback, but you know, what we have found is these virtual assistants are so inexpensive and so economical that even if they're having a weak pull-through rate, you're still going to make, you know, multiples upon what you're paying them by them just giving you a deal or two a year, right? It doesn't take much to have them pay for themselves. You just need to be patient with the process, because it's not going to happen. You're not going to hire them and then in a month have this great deal. Maybe that happens, but that's probably not what's going to happen. Like, you're going to have to grind it out with them for a while until you see some results.
And you specifically have them making cold calls, finding people who are going to want to sell their house, and it might be a distress type situation or just a retail sale. What type of seller are you looking for?
This is actually why I got licensed, because I didn't want to get on the phone with someone and say, you need to sell to me cash. Like, most people are not in that boat, right? Most people should go to market with their property. 90% of the people, that's the best move for them. So I never wanted to get into a conversation where I was saying, you know, trying to steer them one way when that was not the right thing for them. So that being licensed, I just say, like, listen, these are the routes, right? We go to market, we can do this. Or if you want to just be done with this thing, like, we can offer it, you'll get less money, but no BS, no fees, and the money's there next week, right? The ball is in your court, which way you want to go, and we can help you in either direction.
Yeah. Mark, any comments around that, or?
No, I think you summarized it pretty good.
Okay. How the results from that do you spend time working with those VAs, role playing or training them anymore, helping them refine their skills?
Yeah, and it's tough, man. Like, this is something I need to get better at, because we do not get a lot of I feel like the results should be better, right? Mm-hmm. And I also be like, well, I'm paying them to do this. I don't need to do it. I'm going to go out in the field, and that's not reality. Like, you still need to take ownership upon them instead of saying, oh, these people aren't what I thought they were.
Yeah.
That's something that I am working towards.
Well, there's so many, it's just in the last 10 years, so many third-party resources that can help deliver that, virtual person that has maybe a little more specified or a little better communication skills or whatnot. There's just a lot of those companies out there. And then at the same time, I know a guy that is doing, has somebody set up making those hundreds of calls a week, and he actually pays for him to go through these different sales courses. So he actually invests into the guy. So it's another interesting approach.
So it's funny, when I was selling residential real estate, I've been in real estate 30 years. When I got in the business, I started out as a sales agent. And, my history is that my first 9 months in the business, I sold 78 houses. And I did that because I was on the phone every day calling for sale by owners. And, I track my numbers. I think numbers are really important. But I would get on the phone in the morning. I'd role play with a couple of other agents that I knew around the country, sharpen my skills, get better at what I did. I really feel that practice piece is really important, because if you help somebody else, here we go, let's add value to their life, right, Mark? We sharpen their skills, they're going to be more effective for you down over the long haul.
There's a level of loyalty too, that back, if you're actually helping them grow as an individual.
Absolutely. So, hey, it's Christmas week. What are you guys up to with the family in that?
We're all local, so it's nice and easy for us. My wife's from Schaumburg. My parents are over at the border of Portage Park, so we have it decently easy. We have the only grandkids on both sides, though, so we are the star of the show.
Okay,
that's how we used to be. But yeah, no, we're hyper local too, Wheaton, Winfield, and then we might. I'm out of the office next week, so I'm going to take a week and clear my mind going to New Year, and then I think we're going to try going down to Nashville for a few days.
Hey, that's interesting you say that. New Year's Day has always been my favorite day of the year, because it's like that day that everything's over and it's a new beginning, right? And I've always tended to take that day, just kind of relax, work on my goals, get focused, get perspective on the new year. Not that I haven't been working on goals, from the end of October, starting to, analyze where I'm at and where I'm headed, but that one day. And I always love to just kind of go lock myself up somewhere and be alone and take time to think and write through. And I think that, that kind of perspective for any of us that perform at a level like we perform at throughout the year is important for us to catch up on that time,
A good read, Jared Cott referred this to me a couple weeks ago. It's called a 12-week year, which basically means like you start your entire year every quarter. Because so many people put so much stock into like, oh no, I start off, we all start off running hard next week, but then 3-4 months, we think we have plenty of time to make up for all our goals, and then 4 or 5 months set in, and then you just end up and you realize you're not going to hit your goals, and then you don't, instead of shifting, you end up just doing busy work for the rest of the year and staying busy. But the whole 12-week thing is almost, it's like the brand new year starts over every 12 weeks, and with that same type of level of excitement. So it's a great read for anyone right now. It's pretty easy to put down in a few hours audio wise, but
nice.
I found it added value to me last week, so I thought I'd share it.
Who's the author on that?
Brian Moran is the author. Anyone that follows Traction, the Traction management model, it's along the lines of like Rocks and EOS and so forth.
Yeah, nice. Traction was a great book this year that I read. So I want to talk about one topic before we cycle out of this, and that is capital improvements. Whether you're on the residential side, small multifamily, large multifamily, have you seen costs accelerate? That it's throwing the numbers off a lot in the capital improvements, both on labor and material. Are you seeing any, and kind of a 3-4 question deal here, but are you seeing some of those costs starting to relax a little bit? What do you think that's going to look like moving into the new year?
I think it's something we all have to watch, because I think a lot of those increased costs in 2022 were overshadowed by increased rents. So the true pain point did not necessarily hit everyone, or they didn't realize it yet, or it wasn't as obvious on their books. But going to next year, I think you're going to, I think the rental increase, I think all around the country, a lot of other areas took off far further in rent increases than Chicago. But I think those areas will cool down. And then definitely Chicago, I think, we might have, it won't be as huge a jump as we saw this past year, in my opinion. But now you're going to start seeing, all right, now that tuck pointing or that roof, those commercial contractors are still, their pricings went up, and I don't think those are coming down. So we'll feel it this year. Now wood has gone down. So for porch guys and stuff like that, that's something that is actually much lower than it was in the last 6 months. So that's one thing that is we'll see relief in, at least.
Yeah. So Tom, let me run a scenario by you, because I looked at, and you guys know I'm not a real big Chicago buyer, right? I'm not an Illinois buyer for that matter. I really like the Southeast. I like where my replacement cost is still low and I can go in and make money. But I looked at a couple of deals here in Chicago that were small multifamily, 2-unit stuff that I could buy the shell for $100,000. And the markets were like Woodlawn down on the south side. But I looked at this and I said, okay, I need a roof, I need a porch, I need complete guts and interiors, appliances, closing costs, carrying costs, permits, architectural drawings, all of this. And I thought, well, I'm probably in the deal for 175 plus the purchase of 100. Now I'm in this deal for 275 all day. The most I think I'm going to sell this for is 299 based on the change in the market. Help me to understand how a deal like that even starts to make sense in today's environment.
I don't think it does. Like one of the things, we focus on the north side now, because I'm from here, right? It's a huge advantage to understand block by block. But one of the things that was so hard when we were on the south side is, those labor, yes, your finishes are a little bit different, but for the most part, those labor costs and just overall construction costs are going to be relatively similar.
Yeah.
They're different, but they're pretty close. And you're not going to get that big bang on the back end, right? So like, a 300K rehab might be 250 on the south side if you're, totally gutting something, but you don't have that big back end value to justify spending that amount of money. And then the other thing is you're still going through the process with the city each time, right? Water service is going to be 20, 25K regardless of where you're doing it in the city. And so like, it just the numbers get pinched down there. To where like it's very hard unless you're really, really buying it at a discount to make everything work out.
So you almost got to buy that shell for $30,000 or $40,000 in order to make that deal work.
Yeah, or find a property where you only have to put 100 into it, but be around the same basis on it, right? Like one way or another, those numbers got to come down.
Yeah. Well, here's what's interesting though, is no matter where the market's at, and you guys both have been doing this long enough to know that you're going to make money in a good market when the market's going up, and you can make money in a bad market when the market's going down, or a softer market. And it's just how you play in that market, right? You got to look at the numbers because the math never lies. The math is always truthful, right? And how do you pull that profitability out of there? So I think too many times investors have a tendency to jump into things because they're so excited about the deal. And then they go, wow, what did I get into here?
Yeah, it's really easy to fall in love with a deal and get emotionally attached.
Yeah. So let's talk about your podcast a little bit and how people find you and get connected with you.
Go for it, Mark.
Yeah, no, you can download us iTunes, Stitcher, anywhere else that you download your podcast episodes. You could visit us at straightupchicagoinvestor.com. We also have, we have a whole bunch of tools on there, resources. We have one of our listeners put together a house hacking calculator for us that we have on there. So that's pretty cool. And we also have a list of all of the local meetups that is probably our most heavily visited page on the website. So there's about 15 local meetups that people can see what's going on here in the Chicago market for 2023 as you're getting back out there and networking.
Great. Hey, that reminds me, I need to get my meetup information over to you guys. We're starting a new meetup. It'll be the second Thursday of every month. The first one, the kickoff's going to be January 12th down in the South Loop at State and Cermak at a place called Hue, Hue. And January 12th starts at 6 o'clock. And it'll just be a couple of hours of of networking and a speaker and personal introduction. So love to have you guys join us. Actually, love to have you guys come out and speak at that event sometime in 2023. So maybe we can get that on the books too.
Let's do it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd love it. And then I'll send you information so we get that up on the podcast, on the website as well too.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, appreciate that. Hey, I always like to try and end kind of on a, tell us a couple of questions. So, best book you guys ever read?
Mark got me onto The Road Less Stupid, and I go back to that one a lot. And it's just because it can end with those questions. The answer is not make more phone calls or do this. Like, yes, you got to grind, but taking there's questions in there about thinking of things at a higher level. And it's so good to circle back to and just spend an hour trying to answer those. Like, I feel it's a very easy read. And it's a very powerful book that almost has like built-in exercises with it.
Nice. Awesome.
So I read about 40, 50 books a year, about 50, 60. I think a great book this year that I read is The Art of Thinking Clearly. It's just an awesome way of a lot of its perspective and kind of along the lines of, Tom, your analogy about driving down the road and how different people view different things. And it's very important for us as investors, how we interpret numbers, interpret deals we fall in love with. So it's a great book for real estate investors, The Art of Thinking Clearly.
Nice. Best restaurant in Chicago?
Oh, the Gale Street Inn in Jeff Park. Boom.
Oh,
Local.
That's that plug out for Jefferson Park for you.
Yes, sir.
There's this really good Thai place. I'm not a big Thai guy, but I'm not a big city restaurant guy, but there's a Thai place right in the building. And I think we're going to hold your event there at Cermak State that I eat whenever I'm down there. We'll have to get the name of the Thai place and put it in the show notes.
Nice.
We got there in the Italian Village as well too.
Awesome. Hey guys, thanks for being here this morning. I appreciate it. Appreciate you taking the time Christmas weekend and just chiming in and sharing your knowledge and your excitement. Tell people again how they get a hold of you.
You can email us at straightupchicagoinvestor@gmail.com. And that's an email that goes to both me and Tom. So if you want to send something there, you can address us. You can, on the website, straightupchicagoinvestor.com. We also have a Ask Mark and Tom. You could find us there. And then, we're on Bigger Pockets as well too. And if you Google me up or Tom, both of our cell phones are everywhere on the internet. So we hand that out fairly welcomely.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for being here. Merry Christmas to you and your family. I hope you guys have a great new year and certainly look forward to staying connected and staying in touch.
Sure. Thanks for having us on.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet.